Hello, welcome to part 2 of making a weirdly luscious teratoma material in Substance Designer. In this part, I'm going to be setting up the ambient occlusion, height, roughness, and metal. If you haven't done part 1 yet, then you should go do that first, or else, well, none of this is going to make any sense. If you're not actually following along and you're just watching this for fun, then, well, thank you. Okay, ready? Follow me! Now I'm going to start working on the AO. So to start off, I'm just going to grab this blend. I'm going to right click it, add comment, and I'm going to call this one blend 1. Then I'm going to grab another blend, right click it, call this blend 2. For the foreground, I'm going to plug in this invert grayscale. Where are you? Yeah, this one here from our gum section. Plug that there. And the background is going to be blend 1. And I'm going to set the blending mode to soft light. And then I'm going to turn the opacity down to about 0.32. Now I'm going to grab a histogram scan, and for the input, I'm going to plug in my my hair strands from this tile sampler. And for the position, I'm going to set it to, let's see, around 0.44. And I'm going to leave the contrast at 0. Then I'm going to grab a invert grayscale. Whoop. Oops. And plug that in. And actually, I'm going to need a couple of these, so I'm going to name these as well. So I'm going to call this Hist S1. And this one is going to be IG1. Now I'm going to grab another blend. Blend 3. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this invert grayscale. And for the background, I'm going to plug in this blend 2. And I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. Now I'm going to grab another blend. Right click, add comment. Blend 4. And the background is going to be this blend 3. And the foreground is going to be these hair strands from the tile sampler. And I'm going to set the blending mode to add linear. Feels a little heavy, so I might let's see if I plug this histogram scan. It's a bit better, or I can change the position maybe. Max lighting's a little bit better, actually. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to go with max lighting for the blending mode here. Pull all these up here. Now I'm going to be grabbing another histogram scan. And for the input, I'm going to grab my top hair. So I believe that's going to be this one with everything blended together. Yeah. And for the position, I think I'm going to set it to the same. So 0.8. Just double click that. It's about 0.84. And then leaving the contrast at 0. Then I'm going to grab another invert grayscale. And, oh, then I'm going to right click this. Call this Hist S2. IG2. Now I'm going to grab another blend, and for the foreground I'm going to plug in this invert grayscale, and the background I'm going to plug in this blend 4, and I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. And of course, right click, add comment. Blend 5. Then I'm going to grab one more blend node, and I'm going to call this one blend 6. Alright, and so for the background, I'm going to plug in this blend 5. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this top hair here. The one that we have blended with all of our, you know, from our tile sampler, and then the individual strands that we kind of like laid out manually. There we go. And this one I'm going to set to, see how add linear looks? Nah. Max lighten. There we go. And plug that into the ambient occlusion. Okay, cool. Hi, it's me, from the future. I'm not sure if I accidentally deleted a piece of footage or something, but you'll notice in the next part, this base material here is going to just magically appear without any explanation. So I'm just going to go over that now. You can grab that by just searching in the search bar. Base material, this guy here. And then just by going into the sidebar, I think at the moment all I have is the normal and the ambient occlusion turned on. And then from there you can just grab your normal. Here I have the normal invert because that's what I'm using in the future. But whichever normal we still have, I think it's just this regular normal one. Just have that plugged in with the input there, and then same thing with the ambient occlusion. And then you could just take the output and then just plug that, you know, into your normal, which, you know, I'm not going to do because I already have one here. Just going to get rid of that. Yeah, does that make sense? I think that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, yeah, just grab a base material, turn on your instance perimeters. No, that's the wrong one. Oh god. Yeah, turn on your instance perimeters and then just plug the outputs into these outputs here, and you should be good to go. All right, cool. Got it? Got it. Good. So now we're going to get started on our normal map. So the first thing, actually no, the first thing that I'm going to want to do here, because I'm pretty sure I'm actually going to want a little bit more like depth and detail in these teeth. And I'm not going to be able to get that from like just this height map that I'm using from this teeth generator here. So in order to do that, I'm going to want to just like duplicate this entire area. So I'm just going to highlight these. I'm going to hit Control C and then paste it somewhere. Control V where it can't overlap. And I'm just going to put it right above. And I'm just going to rename these. So I'm just going to name this first one here teeth base. And I'm going to name this one here teeth depth. Okay. So just double click this. And then I'm just going to click on my my teeth generator here for my teeth depth. And I'm just going to pull the height AO switch all the way down to 0 for all of them. There we go. And then I'm going to grab a blend node. And for the background, I'm going to plug in this blend from my teeth base. And for the foreground, I'm going to grab the blend from my teeth depth. There we go. And then I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. And I'm going to pull the opacity down to 0.5. So I have a good balance of both of them there. And I'm going to, just because like I feel like the AO is like still like a little bit flat, I'm just going to grab this, this blend. Actually, I'm going to name this as well. Add comment. I'm just going to call it Teeth Blend. Just so I don't get confused. Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be like alternating between the blend here, this blend with the depth, and the like just the base, like throughout building this material. So just to avoid confusion, I'm going to call this like blending of the two of them Teeth Blend. And I'm going to grab the output, and I'm going to plug this into my the opacity for blend 2 in my AO. Let's see. Yeah, that was good. Oh, I gotta go grab it again. Whoops. Okay. And blend 2, opacity. Awesome. Now I'm gonna get started on the normal. So I'm gonna grab a histogram scan. Oh, I have that here. And I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna call this histogram scan 1. And for the input, I'm gonna grab this teeth blend that I just made, plug that in. And I'm gonna set the position to 0.98. And I'm gonna leave the contrast at 0 because I want the edges to stay a little bit soft for my normal map. Then I'm gonna grab a invert grayscale. And for the input, I'm gonna go to my blending section here, and I'm going to plug in this histogram scan. And plug that in. Then I'm going to grab a blend, or actually I'm going to name this too. And I'm just going to call it IG1. And then for this blend here, I'm going to plug in the histogram scan for the foreground. And for the background, I'm going to plug in this invert grayscale. And I'm going to set the blending mode to add linear dodge. Cool. And so now I'm going to grab an edge blur. Edge blur. There we go. And for the curvature and the mask, I'm going to plug in this blend. Oh, which I also have to name. I'm going to call this blend 1. And this edge blur, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be using another one in this like normal node system, so I'm not going to bother naming it. Now I'm going to grab a blur HQ grayscale. And plug the edge blur into the grayscale input there. And I'm going to set the quality up to 1. And I'm going to set the intensity to 1.29. So I'm going to pull that all the way down. There we go. Now I'm going to grab a normal Sobel. You can also probably just use like a regular normal for this, but I find the normal Sobel is just like higher quality. Oh, and I have to name this comment. Blurred 1. Then for the normal Sobel, for the input, I'm going to use this non-uniform directional warp from my base hair warp. So I'm just going to grab the output there and plug that into the input. And I'm going to add a comment. I'm just going to call this the normal Sobel 1. And I'm going to set the intensity to 2.24. Now I'm going to grab another normal Sobel, and I'm going to call this one normal Sobel 2. And for the input, I'm going to plug in this blur HQ grayscale. And I'm going to set the intensity to 1.65. And now I'm going to grab a normal blend. There we are. And so for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this normal Sobel 2. And the background is going to be this normal Sobel 1. And for the mask, I'm going to plug in this edge blur here. There we go. And I'm going to keep the opacity at 1. And we're going to use the mask, so leave it true. And right click. I'll call this normal blend 1. Now I'm going to grab another blend. Call this blend 2. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this histogram scan 1 that we did. And for the background, I'm going to go to this blending here, blending section, and I'm going to grab this histogram scan. And plug that into the background. And I'm going to set the blending mode to subtract. Now I'm going to grab another normal Sobel. And I'm going to call this normal Sobel 3. And for the input, I'm going to grab my teeth blend. And I'm just going to plug that in there. And I'm going to set the intensity to 4.6. Turn that up a bit. There you go, 4.62 is fine. Now I'm going to grab a blur HQ. This time I'm going to grab a blur HQ color because in normal maps, you know, are color. So in this one, I'm just going to right click, add comment. I'm going to call it blur C1. And for the input, I'm going to plug in this normal Sobel 3. And for the intensity, I'm going to set it to 0.19. And I'm going to turn the quality up to 1. Now I'm going to grab a bent normal. And for the input, I'm going to plug in this blend 2. Or no, wrong one. I'm going to go to my gum section here, and I'm going to plug in this blend 2. There we go. And physical size, I'm going to leave that at false. For the height scale, I'm going to leave that at 0.1. And I'm going to keep that at cosine, maximum distance, 0.5, spread angle 1. Okay, so I'm just going to leave everything at the way that it is here. Then I'm going to grab a blur HQ color. Oh, and actually, I'm going to name this one too. I'm going to call this normal bent 1. Not sure if I'm going to use another one yet, so it's good to have that there just in case. And I'm going to plug in this bent normal. And for the blur, oh, and I'm going to name this blur, blur C2, I think, yeah. And for the intensity, I'm going to turn it down to 1.34. And the quality, I'm going to turn that up to 1. Then I'm going to grab a normal blend. Right click, add comment. So normal blend 2. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this blur HQ color 1. And the background is going to be this blur HQ color 2. And the mask is going to be this first histogram scan. So histogram scan 1. And just plug that into the mask. And opacity at 1 and use mask true. Now I'm going to grab another normal blend. Call this normal blend 3. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this normal blend 1. And the background is going to be this normal blend 2. And the mask is going to be this blend here that we did. Put that. Yeah, that's better. now I'm gonna grab a levels, and for the input, I'm gonna grab this top hair blend of like just like the hair locks, not the one that has like the locks and the strands in it. So I'll grab that and pull this over here to our levels. And I'm just gonna grab this little white arrow and I'm just gonna pull it over to the side, maybe like that. Then I'm going to grab another normal Sobel. Oops, gonna right click that, add comment. Four. And for the input, I'm gonna plug in this levels here. And the intensity, I'm gonna turn to 1.43. Now I'm gonna grab another normal Sobel. Right click it, add comment. Normal Sobel 5. And for the input, I'm going to grab my tile sampler with my hair strands. Oh, there you are. And I'm going to keep the intensity here at 1. And yeah, just leave it like that. Now I'm going to grab another normal blend. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this normal Sobel 4. And the background is going to be this normal Sobel 5. And for the mask, I'm going to go over to my AO. And I'm going to grab this histogram scan 2. And plug that in there. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to grab a histogram scan. I'm going to grab these and pull them a bit closer. And for this histogram scan, I'm going to grab my my blend here that has both my like hair strands and my top hair blended in. And this one, I don't think I actually really need this anymore. I'm going to hang on to it just for now in case maybe I want to use it for something else, but for now I'm just going to try and pull it out of the way. But yeah, so I'm going to grab this blend here with my the blending of like my top hair. And just plug that into the histogram scan. And I'm going to set the position to 0.72. And I'm going to set the contrast to 0.67. And I'm going to grab, actually, I'm going to rename this normal 4. I think that's 4. Yeah, okay. And right click this. Histogram scan 2. And now one more normal blend, which I'll right click and call normal blend 5. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in normal blend 4. And for the background, I'm going to plug in my normal blend 3. And then for my mask, I'm going to take this histogram scan 2. And I'm just going to plug that in there. There we go. And then just grab this normal and plug that into my normal. Nice, there we go. And so I'm gonna get rid of this normal because I don't need it anymore. And I don't actually like how some of the hair is showing through some of these layers because of the because I set the in this tile sampler here, I set it to where is it? For like a color random to kind of like give it like a little bit more like variation, but I actually don't really like how that's coming through. So I'm just gonna turn that back down. There we go, that's better. At this point now I'm gonna get started on the height. So first thing to do that is I'm gonna hit my materials. I'm gonna go to default. I'm going to select metallic roughness and tessellation displacement. And I'm just going to want to turn the scale up just so I can actually properly see what the height is looking like. So I'm just going to turn it up to like, 8.7 or so. Because I'm going to want to have a lot of variation in height with the way the hair is kind of like flowing and like waving. Okay. So, first I'm going to grab a levels, and I'm going to plug the, this blend 3 here from our, from the base hair. So I'm just going to grab that, and I'm going to plug that into the input, and I'm just going to grab this white arrow here, and pull it over to about, roughly around halfway. And then I'm just going to grab this black arrow and I'm going to do about the same. Just about like that. Yeah, I think that's good. And now I'm going to grab a Blur HQ Grayscale. There and plug my levels in, and I'm just going to set the intensity. I'll leave the intensity at 10, and then I'm going to turn the quality up to 1. Oh, and I'm just going to right click my levels, add comment. I'm going to call this Lev 1. And right click, add comment. Blur BW1. Then I'm going to grab a directional blur. Oh, it's right here. And plug the Blur HQ Grayscale into the input. And I'm going to leave the intensity at 1. And then I'm going to turn the angle to around about minus 45 degrees. Then I'm going to grab another Blur HQ Grayscale. And right click this. And I'm going to grab from this section, I'm going to grab the blend 2. Grab that and plug that into the grayscale input. And I'm going to set the intensity to 2.88. And I'll just turn the quality up. Then I'm going to grab a blend, right click it. I'm going to call this blend 1. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this Blur HQ grayscale here from where I did my normal. So it's Blur BW1. And plug that to the foreground. And for the background, I'm going to plug in this Blur HQ grayscale 2. And I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. Then I'm going to grab another blend node. Put that there, blend 2. And the foreground is going to be blend 1. And the background is going to be this directional blur. And I'm going to set the blending mode to add linear dodge. Then I'm going to grab another levels. I'm going to right click it, add comment, call this Lev 2. And actually I'm going to pull this up here. And my input is going to be this teeth blend here. Plug that in. And I'm just going to pull this white arrow just about, I guess roughly about a quarter of the way over to the left. Oh. There we go. Then I'm going to grab a curve. Comment, call this curve 1. And I'll plug my levels into the input there. And for the curve, I'm just going to double click on the corner there, just so it makes like a little, you know, just a little square thing. And I'm just gonna pull it this way. I'm gonna pull the handle in so it's like, you know, pretty short. And I just want to create like a tiny little curve that goes downwards. There we go. Then I'm gonna grab a blend. I'm gonna right click this and I'm gonna call it blend 3. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this curve. And for the background, I'm going to plug in this blend 2. And I'm going to set the blending mode to screen. And I'm going to set the opacity to 0.84. Then I'm going to grab a histogram scan. I'm going to right click it, add comment, histogram scan 1, and for the input I'm going to want to plug in these hair strands here from my tile sampler. Plug that in, and I'm going to set the position to about 0.55, and I'm going to leave the contrast at 0. Then I'm going to grab a Blur HQ grayscale and plug that in, and I'm going to set the intensity to about 2.24. Then I'm going to grab a invert grayscale and plug the Blur HQ into the input. And I'll add a label for this one as well. This is 2. going to be invert grayscale 1. Or no, this is blur, this is 3. There we go. Now I'm going to grab another blend node, and for the foreground I'm going to plug in this invert grayscale 1, and the background is going to be this blend 3. And I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. And now I'm going to grab a normal to height HQ. And I'm just going to use this because I want the height to be lined up really well with the normal. So I'm going to use the normal map to actually create the height. So I'm going to grab this normal Sobel 5. I'm just going to grab that, pull it down, and plug that into the normal to HQ. And down here, so for the relief balance, I'm going to set that to 0.16. And for the intensity, I'm going to set that to 0.74. And height normalize false, and we'll leave the quality at normal. Now we're going to grab another blend. Oh, we got to call this one blend 4 though. And this one is going to be blend 5. And so the foreground for this one is going to be the normal to height HQ, and the background is going to be blend 4. And I'm going to set for the opacity here, we're going to use this blur HQ grayscale 3. And for this blend 5, we're going to set the blending mode to add linear dodge. Now we're going to grab another blur HQ grayscale. And I'm just going to right click it and add a label. And for the input, I'm going to use this blend with all of my like my hair locks. So I'm just going to grab that and plug that into the blur HQ grayscale. And I'm just going to set the intensity to 3. Now I'm going to grab another levels. And for the input, I'm going to plug in this blur HQ grayscale 4. And I'm going to leave this little white arrow here at the right. And then I'm just going to pull this black one, maybe about even less than a quarter of the way over. Then I'm going to grab this, white arrow here on the right. I'm just going to pull it over about like that. Let's see. And yeah, I think that's about good. Then I'm going to grab a curve and plug that in. Oops, that's a gradient map. Here's a curve. And I'm going to plug the levels in. I'm going to call this curve 2. And for this curve, I'm just going to double click a little more than halfway down. And I'm just gonna pull the handle so that it's parallel. Like the little handles are like parallel, vertical. And I'm just gonna pull it just a tiny bit out like that. Now I'm gonna grab a histogram scan. And for the input, I'm going to use this Blur HQ Grayscale 4. And I'm going to set the position to about 0.68. And add comment. Histogram scan 2. And I'm going to grab another invert grayscale. And I'm going to plug the histogram scan in there. Call this IG invert grayscale 2. And then I'm going to grab a blend. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this invert grayscale 2. And for the background, I'm going to plug in this blend 5. And I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. And then I'm going to pull down the opacity to about 0.4. Oh, and I'm going to name this blend 6. Then I'm going to grab one more blend. Call this blend 7. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this curve 2. And the background is going to be this blend 6. And I'm going to set the blending mode to max lighten. There we go. Then just click on my base material here, and I'm going to turn on my height. So I can then grab my output from my blend 6, pull it up here, plug it into the height, and then take the height from the back here, and then plug it into my output. And it should show up. Let's see. Oh, my scale's all the way down. Okay, so let's turn that up. There we go. So now we have some height starting to show through here. Turn that up even more. And actually, I might go to my base material here and pull up my height position and my height range a little bit, because I do want quite a bit of range on this. Okay, so it's coming. These teeth are jutting out a little bit, probably a little bit more than I want them to. So to fix that, there's a few things we can do. I can go to this blend here, blend 3, and just maybe pull the opacity down just a little bit more. Did that help? Yeah, it did help a little bit. There you go. I think that helped a bit. And I'm actually not really liking how this hair, like how the top layer of hair is blending with the bottom layer. The bottom layer is, it's got a lot more wave to it, and it just doesn't look like a natural flow. So I'm actually going to go back over here to my base hair, where my fur 2 is. And I'm going to change the, wave scale. So I have that at 0. And I'm going to turn that up to about like, 0.87. There we go. Just to kind of help it match the flow of this top hair here. Yeah. Yeah, I think 0.87 is okay. I'm actually going to come back and I'm going at some point, probably when I'm like, I have a little bit more finished, and I'm going to want to rearrange, I think, how I have this hair, and then maybe add some gradients to the end pieces. Because yeah, the more you work on it, the more like it kind of gives you a better idea for like what it's going to need, and like the adjustments that are going to be made, and you can't always really foresee that from the beginning, or at least I can't. Yeah. All right. So now, just want to clean up, or at least give these little groups some frames. So I'm going to call this one here. See if I can do this without. Maybe not. Yeah, so right click that, add frame, and I'm going to call this normal. And then down here, actually I'll pull these over. Yeah. Add frame, I'm going to call this height. There we go. I think at this point now, I'm going to want to do a little bit of like adjusting and tweaking. There are a few things that are standing out that I feel like could use like, just a little bit of improvement. The first is going to be, so the normal on these teeth, I think it's probably a bit too high. It's starting to look a little like, just like, I don't know, kind of like too muddy. I don't know. Too busy. Yeah, I think it could use a little bit of softening. So I'm going to go up here into my normal, and I'm going to go to, I believe, my normal Sobel 3. This guy here. Or no, that's my normal blend. Where are you? Here you are. Right here. And I'm just going to reduce the intensity. I'm going to turn it down to about 3.7. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. It's looking a little less like crunchy. Cool. I'm also, I think I want to turn down the, some of this, these hair strands and the ambient occlusion. It's starting to look just like a little bit too like busy and noisy as well. So I'm going to go down here to my AO, and I'm just going to turn down this histogram scan. And I'm going to turn it down to about 0.3. 3.4. Okay, so that just removes some of the like kind of extra shadows that were going on there. Okay, next, I think because of the I guess like the distortion and the disorder in the hair strands, it's starting to like, I don't know, clip and just like look like, again, just like a little bit messy, which I don't really like. So I think I'm gonna go back down to my my hair section, and I'm just gonna like, make some adjustments here to like the hair generator, and probably turn up the directional blur. So right now I have the intensity at 0.24. I think I'm just gonna turn it like all the way up on all of them. And that should help like reduce some of that noise. And I'm not sure if I need to do this one. No. I'm gonna keep the hair strands as they are because they look fine. Okay. Now I do also think I'm going to, so I'm gonna go to my first hair generator here. And for my distortion, it's already pretty low. And my density is at 0.2, so maybe this one's okay. My hair generator 2. So my distortion's at 0.5, and the density is at 0. So I'm going to try turning the distortion down to like 0.1. Okay, so that smoothed it out a bit. Let's see a 0.2. Let's try 0.3. I don't know. Like I like the volume of it, but yeah, I just don't like how it's crossing over. It's just kind of like, it's just looking kind of messy. Let's see. All right, well, first I am noticing that like there is a little bit of clipping going on, so I'm gonna take care of that by going into my tile sampler. And I'm gonna go to, where is the color section? Right here. And I'm gonna take this this little switch here, and I'm just gonna turn it down to like 0.91. There we go. I think that got rid of pretty much all the clipping. So that, oh, no, there's a little bit here, so let's turn it up. Why is that? Oh, because that's on one of these guys here. Okay. Let's see. Okay, well, I'll take care of that in a minute. That got rid of like most of it. And again, I'm also going to adjust the rotation a little bit because it's not really matching like the bottom hair. The bottom hair is like a lot more like straight now. So I think I want the top hair to be a lot more horizontal. So I'm going to go back up to my tile sampler. And I'm going to go down to my rotation here. Make sure I can get a good look at it so I can see how the changes are going. And so for my rotation, I think I'm going to make it -7. See. -1. Okay, Yeah, I think I like -1. Then I'm going to go up to my scale, and I'm just going to adjust that a little bit as well. So, hold on, what was it before? 7.03. So let's turn it up about 8.5. And I'm going to do the same thing for the these hair strands here, because they're on like much more of like an angle. So I'm going to go back to my where am I? For my rotation, and I'm just going to turn these a little bit as well. So I have them at 7 degrees. So let's see. Let's double click that so I can see. Yeah, I think that looks better. Now I think I'm gonna go back up here to my tile sampler with my like top hair, and I might adjust the like the position. Let's see my global offset here. So yeah, 1.3. I think is a bit better. 3, 4. Nope. 5. Okay. Yeah, I think I like that better. And then I also have this one like strand of hair here, which is like not part of my tile sampler. So I'll probably have to go in and adjust some of these as well. For a lot of these, like, I think I might add like a gradient, because like how the hair strands kind of just like seem to start in like, you know, the middle of like the hair looks a little like, you know, just like overlaid on top. Like I kind of want to give the impression that it's like flowing through the hair. But let's see. Actually, I think maybe what I'll do first, I'm gonna go up to my, up to my teeth. Okay, so what's a little annoying about this is like now once I like adjust the teeth, I'm gonna have to go, and I'm gonna have to delete all of these and then copy and paste the new teeths. But you know, it is what it is. All right, so I think I want to move these 2 teeth. I think they could be in better places. So where are they? I think. Yeah. So where do I want to put this one? Okay. Now I'm gonna move this guy here, which I think might be this one. Yeah. think, because it's popping up in some weird places because of the tiling. I'm just gonna go to my transformation 2D. I'm gonna hit absolute and no tiling. And that'll get rid of that. And I do think I might want to add just a few more, so I'm just going to pull this down a little bit, pull this up for now, stretch that, nope, yeah, there we go, stretch that, and which one do I want to copy? I guess I'll, sure, let's copy this one, or better yet, we'll just make a new transform 2D. Plug that in. And grab another blend. Plug that one into the bottom, this one into the top. Set to add linear. And plug this input into the background there. I maybe might want another little one there, so see if I can do that. then maybe I will add one more there, because I did kind of like that. Okay, I'll do that. And C, Control V. Just want to copy this. And I'm going to put one more tooth. I kind of want one there. I don't know. Yeah, I'll just add one more. Just one more. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to want to just get rid of this whole thing. This top teep depth. And just hit delete. And then pull up the frame to cover all of my new teeth for my teeth base. And just gonna copy the whole thing. Control C. Up here, paste, Control V. And I'm gonna take this final blend here and plug that into the foreground of this teeth blend here. And then last, just double click my teeth generator. Actually, double click this so I can actually see better. And then just click my teeth generator. And then just turn the height to AO switch all the way down for all of them. There we go. There we go. So, file, save all. Cool. Now let's get started on the roughness. I'm first gonna grab a moisture noise. Pull that there. Actually, before I do that, just because it's bugging me a little bit, I'm just gonna pull this this frame down for my top hair. And I really don't think I'm gonna need this blend anymore that I was using, so I'm just gonna delete it. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my moisture noise and double click it. And I'm gonna leave the scale at 1, disorder at 0. For the pattern size, I'm going to make it 1 for the X, 1.86. And for the Y, I'm gonna set it to 2. For the angle, I'm gonna leave it at 0. And pattern angle random, I'm gonna leave that at 0. And then global opacity, I'm gonna set that to 0.44. There we go. And I'm gonna leave the non-square expansion at true. Now we're gonna wanna grab a histogram scan. And for this histogram scan, I'm actually gonna pull this up here to my my teeth blend, and I'm just gonna leave it up here. So I'm gonna plug the teeth blend into the histogram scan, and I'm gonna set the position to about 0.97. And then I'm going to turn the contrast all the way up as well. Then I'm also going to grab an invert grayscale. And I'm just going to plug the histogram scan into that. Okay. Now I'm going to grab a blend. And I'm going to call this Blend 1. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this moisture noise. And for the background, I'm going to plug in this histogram scan that I just did. And then I'm going to set the blending mode to subtract. Now I'm going to grab another blend. Right click it, call that blend 2, and the foreground is going to be blend 1, and the background is going to be this teeth blend here. And I'm going to set the blending mode to overlay. Now I'm going to grab a levels, right click it, and we're going to call it Lev 1, levels 1. And the input is going to be this blend 2. And for this levels, I'm just going to grab this little white arrow here on the right, and I'm just going to pull it to just a little bit over halfway. Now I'm going to grab another blend, and I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to call this blend 3. And for the foreground, I am going to plug in this invert grayscale from where I have my teeth blended together. And the background is going to be this levels 1. And I'm going to set the blending mode to add linear dodge. And now in my notes I have these sectioned off, so I'm just going to do that here. So add frame, and this is my teeth. Just because like every layer of this, there's so many different like components of this material that are going to have like different roughnesses. Like the teeth is going to be different from the hair, and the teeth is also going to have like different roughnesses. Yeah, I just have it organized just to have it a little bit easier, or just have it not be as confusing. Okay, so now I'm going to grab a fluid, and for the scale I'm going to set it to 8. The disorder I'm going to set to 0.54. The warp intensity I'm going to turn it up to 1, and for the pattern size I'm going to turn the X down just to like, you know, 0.41. There we go. And now I'm going to grab a transformation 2D. I'm just going to plug the fluid into that. I'm going to name this one too. Just call it 2D1. And just double click on the transform. And I'm just going to hit this rotation 90 degrees clockwise. There we go. Now I'm going to grab another transformation 2D. And I'm going to call this 2D2. And I'm going to plug in this fluid again. And this time I'm going to hit the 90 degrees counterclockwise. And now I'm going to grab a blend. I'm going to right click it. Call that blend 4. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this transformation 2D1. And the background, I'm going to plug in this transformation 2D2. And I'm going to set the blending mode to overlay. Then I'm going to grab a blur HQ grayscale. And for the input, I'm going to grab this histogram scan that I just did with my for my teeth blend. And I'm going to set the intensity to 1.8. And the quality, I'm going to turn that up to 1. And now I'm going to grab a levels, add comment, call this levels 2. And for the input, I'm going to plug in this blend 4. And I'm just going to pull this middle grayscale just a little bit over, I guess like that. Yeah, just pull a little bit over to the right. Then I'm going to grab a slope blur grayscale, add comment, slope blur BW1. So slope blur grayscale, put that on top. And for the grayscale input, I'm going to plug in this blur HQ grayscale. Oh, actually, BLR BW1. There we go. And for the slope, for this slope blur grayscale, I'm going to plug in this blend 4. And for samples, I'm going to set this to 32. And for intensity, I'm going to set it to 0.14. There we go. And for the mode, I'm going to put it at min. There we go. All right, now I'm going to grab a blend, another blend. I'm going to call this blend 5. Put that on the top. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this levels 2. And for the background, I'm going to go back up to where I did my gums. And I'm going to plug in, I'm going to grab this invert grayscale here. And I'm going to plug that into the background. And I'm going to set the blending mode to subtract. Now I'm going to grab another blend, add comment. I'm going to call this blend 7. Pull that to the top. And for the foreground, I'm going to go back to my gums. And I'm going to use this blend 2 here. And for the background, I'm going to go to my blending section and I'm going to grab this histogram scan right here. And plug that into the background. And I'm going to set the blending mode to max lighten. There, that there. Now I'm going to grab a blur HQ grayscale. And for the input here, I'm going to grab my invert grayscale from my teeth blending. I don't know where to put that for now. And I'm just going to right click it, add comment, blur black and white 2. And I'm going to set the intensity, well, I'll set the quality up to 1, and then I'll set the intensity to 1.8. Now I'm going to grab a slope blur grayscale and right click it, call this SL, BLR, BW, 2. And the input is going to be my blur HQ grayscale 2. So it's going to be this one. And then my slope is going to be this blend 4 here. And I'm going to set the samples all the way up to 32. And I'm going to turn the intensity down to 0.14. Oops, 14. And I'm going to set the blending mode to min. And I'm going to grab another blend. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to call this blend 8. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this slope blur grayscale 2, or no, it's going to be this blur HQ grayscale 2. And the background is going to be the slope blur grayscale 2. Ugh, too many words. And I'm going to set the blending mode to divide, and then I'm going to set the opacity to 0.28. Okay, now I'm going to grab another blend, right click it, add comment, call that blend 9. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this blend 8, and the background is going to be this blend 7. And I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. Now I'm going to grab another blend and I'm going to right click it, call this blend 10. And the foreground is going to be the slope blur grayscale 2. And the background is going to be the slope blur grayscale 1. And I'm going to set the blending mode to max lighten. Okay. And highlight that, right click, add frame, and call these are the gums. And I'll pull that blend 5 there just because I haven't used it yet. And the blend 10. All right, now I'm going to grab a invert grayscale. And I'm going to go up to my blending. And I'm going to grab this histogram scan. Then I'm going to grab a curve. Actually, right click the invert grayscale. Call this IG1. And add comment, CRV curve 1. And for the input for this curve, I'm going to go back up to my, where'd you go? Base hair. And I'm going to grab this transformation 2D. And I'm just going to plug that into the curve. And for the curve, I'm just going to click on this line here. I'm going to pull it down to about there. Just pull the arrows out, or the handles out like that. And then I'm just going to grab this little square on the far right here. Actually, double click on the curve so I can see what I'm doing. And pull this guy down to about, it's about there. And I think I'm going to pull this in a bit. think like that. Now I'm going to grab a levels. And I'm going to right click it. Call this levels 3. And the input is going to be this curve. And I'm just going to pull this one black arrow to about there. To the right, maybe like a little under halfway. Actually, I'll pull it maybe a little more that way. Pull these down a bit. And now I'm going to grab another blend. I'm going to right click it, add comment, and call this blend 11. And I'm actually, for this curve here, I'm actually going to pull this down just a little bit. And same with this second handle, like that. And then I'm going to pull, for this levels here, I'm just going to pull the, actually, that. There we go. That's better. You might want... I'm going to pull this black arrow, yeah, I'm going to pull this black arrow a little bit to the right. Actually, no. I'm going to leave it that way for now. I might come back and get rid of this levels. I'll see how it looks once it's all like plugged in and set up. But my instinct is telling me that I'm not going to like it. But anyway, we'll leave it like that for now. Okay, so I'm going to grab, so I have my blend 11 here. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in my invert grayscale 1. So plug that into the foreground. And the background is going to be my levels 3. And I'm going to set the blending mode to add linear. Okay, I'm going to pull this up here. Now I'm going to grab a blend again, and I'm going to call this, right click it, add comment, BL and D, 12. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in my blend 9 here. And for the background, I'm going to plug in my my blend 11. And I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. Now I'm going to grab another blend. I'm going to right click it, add comment, call that blend 13. And the foreground is going to be this blend 5. Maybe I'll stick this blend 5 here. Oops. So foreground is going to be the blend 5, and the background is going to be blend 12. And I'm going to set the blending mode to max lighten, and the opacity is going to be 0.17. All right, now I'm going to grab another blend. It's going to be a lot of blends, as per usual. Right click, add comment, blend 14. And the foreground is going to be this histogram scan again, from our teeth blending. And the background is going to be blend 13. And I'm going to set the blending mode to add linear dodge. There we go. Now I'm going to grab another blend. And I'm going to right click it, add comment, blend 15. And the foreground is going to be this blend 3 here. And the background is going to be this blend 14. And, excuse me, I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. And then I'm going to pull the opacity down to, whoops, just like 0.9, 0.91. Then I'm going to grab another blend. And I'm going to, for the foreground, I'm going to, right click, add comment. BLND 16. All caps, that's fine. You can be in caps. And then the foreground is going to be this blend 10 here that we don't have plugged into anything yet. So plug that to the foreground. And then the background is going to be this blend 15. There we go. And then we're going to set the blending mode to multiply. All right, now I'm going to grab a histogram scan. And I'm going to plug in these hair strands here from my tile sampler. And I'm going to set the position to 0.44. And I'm going to leave the contrast at 0. Now I'm going to grab another histogram scan. Actually, I'm going to add a frame here. So add frame. I think this is hair base. And I'm just going to right click my histogram scan, add comment, hist S1. And I'm just going to plug this histogram scan that we just did. And I'm just going to plug that into the new histogram scan here. And I'm going to set the position to about 0.39 and the contrast to 0.5. Now I'm going to grab another histogram scan, right click it, add comment, histogram scan 2. And for the input for this one, I'm just going to grab the tile sampler with my hair strands. I'm going to pull that over, plug that in. And for this one, I'm going to set the position to 0.44, and the contrast I'm going to set to 0.71. Now I'm going to grab a levels. I'm going to right click it, add comment, and I'm going to call this levels 4. And for the input, I'm going to plug in this histogram scan 2. And I'm just going to pull this bottom white arrow on the levels. And I'm going to pull it about a third of the way to the left. Then I'm going to grab a invert grayscale. And I'm going to right click it, call this IG 2, and plug the levels 4 in there. I'm gonna add a frame. Oops. And I'm gonna call this hair strands. Now I'm gonna grab another blend, right click it, add comment, blend 17. And for the foreground, I'm gonna plug in this histogram scan 1. And the background is gonna be this blend 16. And for the blending mode, I'm gonna set it to add linear dodge. Now I'm gonna grab another blend and I'm gonna right click it, add comment. This will be blend 18. And for the foreground, I'm gonna plug in this invert grayscale 2. And the background is gonna be this blend 17. And I'm gonna set the blending mode to multiply. Now I'm going to grab an invert grayscale. I'm going to right click it, add comment, IG, call this IG3, invert grayscale 3. And for the grayscale input, I'm going to plug in this blend here that has the blending of my hair strands and the top hair. So I'm just going to grab that and plug that into the invert grayscale. Then I'm going to grab a histogram scan, add comment, histogram scan 3. And the input is going to be this blending of my top hair. And I'm going to set the position to 0.71, and the contrast I'm going to leave at 0. Then I'm going to grab a invert grayscale, and I'm going to right click it, add comment, call that invert grayscale 4, and the input is going to be this histogram scan 3. Then I'm going to grab a blend. I'm going to right click it, add comment, blend 19. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this invert grayscale 3. And the background is going to be this invert grayscale 4. And I'm going to set the blend mode to max lighten. Then I'm going to grab a curve. And I'm going to right click it, add comment, curve 2. And for this curve, I'm going to plug in my blend 19. And I'm just going to grab this little square, oops, on the far left. And I'm going to pull it up to about there. It says 0.42. Then I'm going to grab this other handle, pull it up to about where it says 0.55 on the bottom. Now I'm going to grab a levels. And I'm going to right click it, add comment, levels 5. And I'm going to plug the curve into the input. Then for this levels 5, I'm just going to pull these top arrows. I'll pull the white arrow to about 1/4 of the way, and I'll pull the black arrow to about there, and then the gray I want them to have about equal spacing. There we go. And then the bottom black arrow here on the left, I'm just going to pull a little bit to the right, like that. Now I'm going to grab another blend, and I'm just going to right click it, add comment. I'm going to call this blend 20. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this histogram scan 3. And the background, I'm going to plug in this blend 18. And I'm going to set the blending mode to max lighten. Then I'm going to grab another blend. I'm going to right click it, blend 21. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in this levels 5. And the background, I'm going to plug in this levels 20. And I'm going to set the blending mode to multiply. Then I'm going to grab this output, or actually wait, I need to go into my base material, and I need to turn on my roughness. There we go. And just by looking at this, I can kind of already tell the background is going to be it's going to be too shiny. So plug that in, and then take my roughness and plug that in. Yeah, that's super shiny. Okay, so I'm gonna go back here to my base hair, and let's see. A bit better. And then I also want to adjust these levels. Because it doesn't need to be shinier in the middle there. And then just one thing here, this blend here, plugged into the invert grayscale 3. The blending of like both the hair strands and the top hair. I actually just want it to be this blend here of just the top hair. So I'll take that and I'm going to plug that into my invert grayscale 3. There we go. That's better. Because I already have my hair strands up here, so I don't need to do it again down here. Now I want to get started on the metal. And we don't need much for this. I just want to add like a little bit of a layer just to kind of give this this hair more of like, I don't know, more of like an organic sheen. First I'm going to type in a level, or no, actually I'm just going to grab a levels from up here. And actually let's create a frame for these. Add frame. Whoop. this Roughness. There we go. And right click this, Lev 1. Okay, and for the input here, I'm just gonna go up to my base hair and I'm gonna grab my transformation 2D, so my 2D 1. And I'm just gonna grab this little white handle on the bottom right, and I'm just gonna pull it over to about there. Then I'm gonna grab a blend. And for the foreground here, I'm going to grab, from my blending, I'm going to grab this histogram scan. This one here. And plug that to the foreground. And the background, I'm going to plug in this levels. And I'm going to set this to multiply. Then I'm going to grab another blend, blend 2. And for the foreground, I'm going to grab this invert grayscale here from my teeth blend. And for the background, I'm going to plug in my blend 1. And I'm going to set this blend mode to multiply. Then I'm going to grab a histogram scan. And for the input, I'm just going to plug in the tile sampler with my hair strands. And I'm going to set the position to, whoops, on the histogram scan to 0.25. And now I'm going to grab another blend. I'm going to right click it and call this blend 3. And for the foreground, I'm going to plug in my top hair blend here. And the background, I'm going to plug in my histogram scan. And I'm going to set the blending mode to max lighten. Then I'm going to grab a levels, call this levels 2. And I'm going to plug in my blend. And I'm just going to grab my little white arrow on the bottom right here, and I'm going to pull it just a little over halfway to the towards the left. Then I'm going to grab another blend. I'm going to call this blend 4. And the foreground is going to be levels 2, and the background is going to be this blend 2 here. Actually, maybe I'll turn this levels down even more. Like that. Then I'm just going to go up here to my base material, and I'm going to turn on my metallic. Oh man, this graph's getting pretty big. Okay, and just plug that in, and grab the metallic, and plug that to the output. Okay, so it's very subtle, which is good. We don't want too much. And just going to add a frame. Call this metallic. There we go. And also one more thing, I was just playing around a little bit with this this levels because I felt like it was a little bit too shiny. So I just adjusted it and pulled this top black arrow a little bit to the right, and then the white arrow a little bit towards the left. Just so that I'll show the blend 2 here, just to make it like a little bit more uniform, and because I was having like it was kind of like following the height of the like the hair a little bit, so it was like more shiny in the middle, And it was also just like kind of a little bit too shiny overall. I wanted it to be more or less the same as the background hair. So yeah, so, and I think that looks a little bit better. Part 2 done. If you've made it this far, then I'm very happy for both of us. In part 3, I'll be doing the base color, and I'll show you how to fix everything up to bring it to the next level. And again, if you have any questions or you just want to talk, you can leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to help you out. I'll leave a link to my ArtStation if you want to download any of the resources needed to make this, and if you want to see how those resources were made, you can also find the links to those videos down below. Okay, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!